In this week's Parsha, Parsha Tzav, the Torah talks about different karbanis, including the carbon toida. When Rashi discusses the carbon toida, Rashi explains that the carbon toida is brought for a nace, that a miracle that happens to a person, specifically in four circumstances, like someone who was sick, someone across the desert or sea, or someone who was in captivity or jail. And Rashi explains that this is alluded to based on a kapitel in Tehillim, kapitel Kuf Zayin, where it says, Yodu Lashem Chastei v'nifle'esav v'bnei Adam v'yizbechu zivchei seida. And over there in that kapitel, the Psukim also allude to these four cases of people being saved and that they should give thanks to Hashem, which the Gemara in Brachos also learns out from this kapitel of Tehillim, this idea also of Arba Trichel Haides, that these four people also have to make, which we do nowadays, a bracha of HaGoimel. In a mimer of the Rebbe, Baruch HaGoimel, Tavshechav Zayin, the Rebbe, based on a mimer of the Frierdiker Rebbe, explains and discusses the idea of the bracha of HaGoimel that we make. And it asks the obvious question that seemingly we're thanking Hashem because Hashem saved us from this difficult circumstance, this difficult situation that we were in, and in a miraculous way even. And the question is we know that Hashem orchestrates everything that happens. And therefore, the question is, why did Hashem cause in the first place, Hashem, if someone to get sick, and then for the Hashem to then go and have to Hashem go in a miraculous way to cure the person or to make them better, and then they have to go and say HaGoimel. The question is, why is Hashem making the problem in the first place? That then he has to make the solution. Just don't make the problem in the first place. And then we don't have to start coming up with the solutions. We don't have to start making miracles. Hashem doesn't make miracles for no reason. So the Rebbe explains that this idea can be understood based on a general idea of why our neshama comes down into this world. We know our neshama is in Shemayim before it comes into this world. And then it comes into this world. And eventually, the neshama goes back up to Shemayim. And the question, you can ask the same question. What's the point of the neshama coming down to this world? It was going back to where it was beforehand. And the obvious answer that's explained in Chassidus is that we know this idea of Yerida L'Tzarech Aliyah. The reason why the neshama came to this world is not to come back to the original place that it was beforehand in Shemayim, but rather through the neshama coming to this world, through its avodah Berurim, and especially through avodas of Nisyanis, that when a person has difficult decisions and challenges that they have to make and overcome, it lifts up the neshama and brings out higher kayach in the neshama, and it lifts up the neshama to a greater place than it was before it came down to this world. So the Rebbe explains the same thing is true when a person begashmius is in a difficult circumstance, and then eventually the Eibusher saves them, especially in a miraculous way. That when a person is in a difficult circumstance, a difficult situation, and as a result of that, they vayizaku el Hashem, they call out to Hashem. So it brings the person to a greater recognition of the Eibusher, and it brings the person and their neshama to a greater place than they were before this whole situation happened to them. And therefore, as a result of Hashem, them calling out to Hashem at the time of the difficult circumstance, and afterwards, when Hashem saves them, and then Haidu Hashem Chastei, they thank the Eibusher. It's not that they were back to the same place how they were before the difficult circumstance happened. Rather, they can look back at the whole chain of events and everything that happened and realize that it really brought them to a greater place than they were beforehand. And this also the Rebbe explains why the Baal Shem Tov instituted that before Shabbos, Friday afternoon, going into Shabbos, before Mincha, we say this kapitel of Haidu Hashem Chastei, that we look back at our week and we see that maybe in Beruchnius we had different challenges and different nisyanis, different obstacles. And we look back at the week and we thank the Eibusher that we survived them and we overcame them. And it brought us, and the nisyanis that we had brought us to a greater place the greater place than we were beforehand, before the week started. And with that we could say, Good Shabbos.